Well, welcome everyone to our bi-monthly expansion call. So glad to have you here. And let's go ahead and get started. So I always love to do a check-in and be curious, just kind of get some metrics or measures on where we are today. So again, 0 is sort of a neutral, and the plus is where we're feeling energized and present and fully activated. And below 0 is where we're feeling a little subpar. So check in on your energy level, your life force. Maybe that's chi or prana or sense of vitality for you. And then how's your mental state? Where are you with your internal dialogue and conversation and beliefs about yourself? And then emotionally, are you feeling more uplifted and resourced in your emotional body? And also your physical body. How much energy and connection are you feeling with your physical body? So it's always fun to start here, being curious, being the neutral observer, knowing that these things can change very quickly. And I'm really excited today. We're going to do some great neuroregulation with some brain techniques as usual. So, as we do that, let's revisit this concept of our neural garden. And we've got the soil, the landscape, really feeding our foundation. And then we have our drive and our ambition for goals and outcomes, or we might call that our beautiful garden full of flowers. And then we might have things that we consider. Um, Depleting our energy, right? Negativity, anxiety, old beliefs, even things that are encroaching upon our well being, or we might even call them a threat. And so we know that these affect our neuroregulation, our perceptions, even our beliefs, and also our biochemistry. So today we're going to work with some neuroregulation that addresses a really simple way to feed the foundation and our baseline and our soil and down regulate stress and anxiety, and then be able to bring on our prefrontal cortex for drive and ambition and moving forward. So I always love a little cartoon, and this is so fun. This is actually the heart saying to the brain, hey, you need to relax. You know, the heart has an intelligence, and the brain's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And the heart says it's easy to do. And so the brain's like, it's like overworking, it's trying too hard. And the heart says, no, not like that at all. And the brain doesn't necessarily always know how to neuroregulate or even tap into the wisdom of the heart. And with that negativity bias we've talked about, when the brain's like going, these are all the problems I have, these are all the things I failed at, or these are the things that I have my negativity bias or threat, and it gets fixated on that, we're going to use a neuroregulation technique for the brain to help the brain regulate and potentially be more relaxed. So let's look a little bit of how information flows into the brain. Have you ever had that question? Like, how does that work? So we're orienting towards the fact that a lot of our information, not everything, but a lot of our information comes in through visual format, right? Visual signals come in and they go to that part of the brain that we've talked about, the limbic brain right here, into the thalamus. And then the thalamus directs what to do with that. So the thalamus decides whether something's threatening, right? It's making that determination. And if it's a threat, right, it goes into the amygdala. And we've talked about this subcortical brain, this part that gets triggered and activated. So the amygdala, if there's a threat, then signals the body to go into some kind of action, right? It's going to flock to connect with others, it's going to fight, it's going to run, or it's going to freeze. So when that information goes to that amygdala, that sets the system in motion. If the thalamus decides that there's no threat, the information goes to the prefrontal cortex, right? This frontal lobes. And that's the executive function, the ability to think it through. Okay, great. It wasn't a threat. What do we want to do? What's the next step? So it's kind of nice to know that this happens in nanoseconds and goes so quickly. So again, that sensory input comes in, the thalamus decides, what do we do with it? If it's challenging, threatening, or triggers an old belief or an old trauma, that emotional limbic brain is going to fire the motor cortex for us to take action. And that prefrontal cortex goes offline, and we don't actually think about what we're doing. We're simply in a survival mode. So again, we've talked about Dr. Siegel's hand model, right? These autonomic nervous system responses, what's encoded in this emotional survival limbic brain and that prefrontal cortex. And so when the amygdala gets the message that it's a threat, it literally flips the lid. Our ability to think things through goes offline, and we're now reactive. And we react based on our skill set, right? Based on our mentors and examples that we've seen. So today we're going to work with some neuroregulation on how to bring the prefrontal cortex back online, but also how to downregulate that trauma response that's in the limbic brain. So, several calls ago, we talked about accessing coordinates in the brain, and I referenced that as our brain really has like a neural map, and where we look affects how we feel. And a lot of times we're looking off in a direction to feel better, or if we're stressed by something, we're looking off in another direction. We aren't consciously aware that we're doing it, but in fact, we are. And it's affecting the neural firing, the neural wiring, and our perceptions and our affect, right, of how we feel. And so Antonio Damasio's work is so amazing on understanding neural mapping and how it affects our perceptions. Much of that can come from the body's felt sense, felt experience. And it also comes from just what's encoded there. Something looks similar, then we perceive it as a threat. Like I've had this experience before when I've been on a hike and I see a branch laying on the ground that looks very similar to a snake. So my brain is trying to decide, right? The thalamus decides if it's a snake, it's going to the amygdala. So I react. If my thalamus goes, oh, it's just a branch, or even like sometimes we see a wire or a hose on the ground, then the prefrontal cortex goes, okay, right? So it responds differently based on how our brains neuroregulate and any past trauma. And it happens so quickly, so we can make the decision, and most often not a conscious decision, but a reactive decision, a reactive response, so we can survive. So where we look affects how we feel. And so there's a term gaze spotting where we often will look off into a place that feels safe, calm, or there's some grounding or ease. So we're going to go through the process of identifying a location, a coordinate, a GPS point for you, and how to work with that in relationship to stress, threat, and overwhelm. So I love these word maps or word games. And so I talked about grounding, calm. You could choose peaceful, connected, where you feel all of these sense of well-being, lightness, freedom. So sometimes words are fun because words are labels that are representative of how we feel, right? How we experience ourselves and ourselves in the environment. So I'm going to invite you to pick a couple of words that are representative of the state that you want to activate. And we're going to find this location, this GPS coordinate or this brain spot, and it exists whether our eyes are open or closed. And so I picked the feeling of safety, right? So we're feeding that foundation, right? The soil. So safety, calm, grounded, in ease. So the first question is, when you feel the words that you chose, so I'm choosing safety, calm, grounded, and ease, where do I feel it in my body? So if I take a moment and when I feel safe, and I feel grounded and calm, and I'm kind of scanning my body. You know, it's funny, like part of me feels it in my bones, part of me feels it in my nervous system, and I definitely feel it in my diaphragm. That's that big muscle that's impacted by our breath, and the ability to like know that I can exhale and I feel connected to my body. So I'm going to choose kind of my diaphragm, some sensation in my nervous system, and also that solid feeling in my bones. So that's where I feel it. Right now, my nervous system feels like it's got these components of grounded, safety, and calm at about an 8. My bones feel a 10. My diaphragm feels like it's about a 4. So I'm going to use the 4 and see if I can raise the 4 up. Okay, so this is how we go about it. We're going to find the location where I can increase that sensation in my body, and that helps me locate my coordinate. So I'm going to start off by looking straight ahead. So I picked blue because that's often a calming color. So if I look straight ahead, and I'm going to invite you to do the same thing, and I'm looking straight ahead, kind of horizontal, eye level. What number is my four? Well, my four actually, when I look straight ahead for my diaphragm, that feeling in my body is a 10. And my cat just joined me, so that's even more supportive. If I come over here and orient over here, that 10 just became a 3. And if I orient over here to this side, that 10 actually became an 11. So it even went higher. So I know that somehow in my coordinates, in my neural network, something's encoded that over here on this mind map, this GPS, that this orientation, this visual plane is more relaxing, and actually feel my diaphragm relax when I look here. Now we explored horizontal, so we could explore vertical. So I could go up and go up even maybe off the screen or right here. My 10 actually goes up to a 12. Interesting. So if I come back here where there's 11 and I drop down, my 11 becomes a 2. So it's not down in that quadrant. So for me, it's over on this side and up. So I've identified like an intersection, a GPS, an encoded part of my neural network. And when I look here, orient to here, I literally feel my diaphragmatic muscle relax. I feel my mind quiet. I feel my nervous system calm, and I feel really solid in my bones. Right. So I can spend some time here now that I have found this coordinate. Right. So I just kind of gave you like a little astral perspective that for me, that place what I call safety, calm, ground, and ease isn't down in that coordinate. It's actually up here. So take a moment and find the coordinate for you that activates that in your brain, your biochemistry, your neurophysiology, and spend some time there. Now, the fun thing is I can be looking here with my eyes open, but I can also have my eyes closed, orienting to this same spot and getting the same feedback loop, right? Getting the same response, right? So I can be present with my eyes open and eyes closed and be resourcing myself with this neuro network, this neural coordination, this bio neurophysiology, the response to that, and really be caring for myself. And I'm kind of doing that almost like nutrition as both a meditative practice, but also like feeding my system with something that's beneficial, right? Something that's healthy and that can give me resilience and strength as I step into other parts of my day. Okay. So we know that this point's here. So I'm going to put this pointer down. And now we're going to move on to identifying something that maybe is overwhelming, threatening, stressful for us, because that's also encoded in our neural network. And I'm going to help you find an example of this and how we can what's called pendulation or down regulate the anxiety, overwhelm, threat, and amplify the sense of grounding and solidity and calm to neuro regulate and recalibrate our system. So, again, see if there's any words there that are kind of key words that activate something that's got us over into that part of threat or anxiety or a high cortisol level. Okay. So, again, where is this brain spot that creates the feeling of overwhelmed, stress, or threat in your body? So, when I feel overwhelmed, stressed, or threatened, I literally feel my chest. I feel like a sense of freezing. I don't necessarily initially want to run or fight. I first feel like that shutdown, right? So, when I tune into that, that's about a 10 for me. And so now I want to see if I can find what part of my neural network feeds that kind of shutting down and freezing in my body so I can begin to neuroregulate that. So I want you to go easy with yourself. Pick something that's a little stressful or a little overwhelming. So you can begin to explore the benefit of this. And I just want you to notice what that's like, right? So we're going to find that brain location, GPS location, with our eyes open or closed. So I've picked another color, kind of a vibrant color, to represent something kind of being bold and a little dramatic for me. So again, this is fun. My cat's joining me for moral support, emotional support. So if I'm looking straight ahead, right, horizontal, and I'm tuning into that feeling of freezing and my breath getting short, high up in my chest, and I had a 10, when I'm here at the center, it's about an 8. Okay. If I come over on this side and I orient to that, it's a 12. It's going up higher. Okay. If I come over to this side and I orient over here, it's about a 3. So noticeable different just in the horizontal plane from one side to the next. So when I come over here and I feel that 12, I literally feel like my breath can only just come to the first or second rib. It's almost just stuck here in my throat. If I go up and I'm exploring vertical, that 12 became an 8. So my GPS coordinate isn't as activated over here. Here at the horizontal plane, it's a 12. If I come down here in this lower quadrant, it goes down to even a 3 or 4. Amazing. So something directly over here really sets my neurological, physiological response into some kind of threat response. So my amygdala is activated. And so I'm not going to stay here long, but I'm noticing that anytime I might look over in this direction or have to orient in this direction in my life, I might be activating some kind of stress response in my neurobiology, right? In my biochemistry. Now, this doesn't have to stay that way forever. It's not like a fixed state. It's something because of neuroplasticity that can get recalibrated, right? But we wanted to find this spot, right? So again, I gave kind of like a little constellation that we're locating a second spot that's creating some kind of overwhelm, stress, or threat. Okay. And it's firing my neural network, right? It's definitely activating my subcortical brain, my limbic brain. So now this is where it gets exciting. We're going to start to neuroregulate and recalibrate these responses that are neurally encoded in our brain and our neurobiology to be able to be more resilient and more balanced. So what we're going to do is we're now having an awareness that there's 2 different locations. So I want you to have located a space that's giving you some kind of resource of safety, calm, grounding, or ease. And that's mine up over here, right? And then I've located a spot that creates some kind of stress response, right? Over here. So now that we have these 2 spots, we're going to literally call pendulate or flow between the 2 and give the neurobiology a chance to renegotiate. So I'm going to start over here where I'm resourced, right? Where I'm feeling, literally when I look up at this blue location, this GPS point, I go, oh my God, I can exhale. I feel my diaphragmatic muscle release. So I'm going to stay here first. Like I'm really feeding and strengthening my system, right? So I might stay here until I feel like, okay, I'm ready. I have enough strength, grounded, safety, calm in my nervous system, in my body, in my orientation that I could touch over here to this, which is a little more stressful. I'm not even sure what the story is, but I feel my breath get shallower. You can probably hear the change in my voice. And now I'm going to come back over here. Like this blue location is letting my system rest, recalibrate, renegotiate, and reorient. I'm going to come back over here and touch in where it's like a little more intense. Let my system balance that a little bit more. And I'm going to come back to the blue. So this is all regulated by your tolerance, right? Your ability, your flow state. So you're going to see on your resource space of safe, calm, and grounding for as long as you need. And then you can touch into the more activated space for as long as you feel like you can manage that, and then come back and recalibrate. So I'm going to allow you time to flow back and forth. I'm going to do it with you back and forth. until we begin to notice that when I come over here to this space that was more activated, that 12 is now a 10, right? And I'm coming over here to the resource space. So I'm actually getting some renegotiation and neuroregulation on the activated spot by coming to my resource spot. I come over here, I look at the activated spot, it's gone down to an 8. And this is all happening in the subcortical brain, the limbic brain. There might be images, thoughts, stories that come up, but there's also a lot that's beyond our verbal or conscious awareness, even pre-verbal. So we're allowing the wisdom in our intelligence system with our conscious awareness and our presence to renegotiate, to recalibrate, right? To resolve. And in that resolution and the support that comes with the resolution, more resilience. So I'm flowing back and forth. I'm finding my activated spot of this brighter pink GPS point is really dropped down already to a 2. And when I come blue, I immediate exhale. My diaphragm relaxes. So brainstem, right? So autonomic nervous system, right? Happening on its own, not anything that I'm consciously controlling. I'm actually starting to be able to relax in my breath when I look at the pink, bright activated spot. So that's telling me systems being able to orient to a relaxation response, even when I'm in the presence of something that used to be activating. So I'm flowing back and forth. So now when I look at the pink, it's about a 1, and I can actually be with something. Before that overwhelmed me, I can feel my body, I can think clearly. I can even exhale and feel my diaphragm relax. So the breath is no longer just stuck up in my throat, right? So I'm just flowing back and forth. It's like a neurological massage, right through my visual plane, through orientating back and forth. I'm actually now starting to feel a happy feeling, which means some serotonin's coming online, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm good. Like I'm feeling resourced, right? I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling so much better. And I can hang out on this pink spot and be the observer of it. I'm actually experiencing some neutrality, like I'm looking at something that's really like an old story, and it's really no longer relevant to who I am and what's happening in my life today, right? It's able to flow back and forth. And when I feel like I can look at this pink spot and really feel like I'm oriented to my true self, I'm happy and resourced, then I can let this come down. And then I'm just going to strengthen my resource. Like anytime I look up over in this direction, whether I'm having a conversation with someone, whether I'm at home working on a project, I can take a moment and orient myself here to feel really grounded, calm, safe, and in an ease state, right? Flow. So I can use this as an ongoing resource that helps me be able to calibrate myself. And what's fun is we did all of this in probably less than 10 minutes, right? Able to identify a resource, and yours is going to be whatever that location is that supports my neurobiology, and a place where I get activated and triggered, right? And so I can identify that. Then I can work with both of them, flow back and forth, and really start to feel myself neuroregulate or come into what I've called often is divine alignment, right? Just like, ah. So as we come back and we're curious on our check in of where we are now, how have we been able to align, right? Our energy, our life force, our spirit, right? From a very simple exercise that took less than 10 minutes. How is the mental faculty, right? How is the mental awareness and presence within ourself being able to be aligned as we renegotiated 2 points and resourced ourselves in the spot that's true for you? How has that impacted your feelings or emotions? Like I said, I started to get that happy feeling, right? Which we know has got some serotonin activation. I even feel some dopamine in my prefrontal cortex, like I'm feeling motivated and excited and really present for my day, right? And my body feels grounded, solid, and energized. It's sort of that calm, present, relaxed state to take action. So I'm really aware that through this renegotiation, the alignment, the resilience, the flow state within myself is so much better. Okay. So, what if we activate our ability to heal, right? And what if we grow our capacity for good, right? For goodness. So it's a very interesting concept that maybe we haven't had a chance to explore, that how we perceive things or how things are neuro-coded in our brain affects how we perceive things. So when we say, how am I seeing things in the world? Like, this is just that. Look, this is what I'm seeing. It's just that, right? So, in the world, we don't see things necessarily as they are. We've got these filters, right? We've got these encoded neural networks that are perceptions. And sometimes those perceptions are accurate, and sometimes those perceptions are convoluted, right? So, how we actually see things depends on how we are, right? How our neural network system is, and also what we're looking for, right? What our perceptions are. So when we neuro regulate ourselves, get calibration, we're in our highest and best place, we're able to see more clearly what's going on, able to recalibrate and remove biases and distortions. We come into our true self. And then we have what I always call, like, we're looking through the eyes of love. We're looking for the best in others, in a situation, for ourselves. Because if we're looking for the worst, or we're looking through an activated lens, that's what we're going to come up against. That's what we're going to see. If we're looking at life and ourselves through a resource space, a divinely aligned space, then that's what we're going to encounter. We're both going to be feeding that to the field, giving that to the world, and we're going to be drawing that to ourselves. And what I love is there's these very simple principles around neural brain regulation, whole body integration, that deeply impacts the wellness of our being, the wellness of our relationships, and what we bring to our daily life, our work, our family, our friends. So, of course, I'm located in San Diego and love working with these kind of complex concepts and putting them into simple formats that we can apply on the go easily in our daily life. So, always happy to work in person, and I also am happy to work virtually. So, again, our next bi monthly expansion calls, August 3rd, will be continuing to build on everything that we've done so far. And if you're new to the calls, I invite you to go to the resources on YouTube and maybe revisit some of the things that we've discussed and built upon over the time together, and we'll continue on our journey because ultimately we're all in this together, and there are simple tools, simple techniques that can resource us because life has some challenges and things can catch us off guard. I had a family dynamic come up this week with a family member having an unexpected medical condition, and just to let you know, I'm in this with you, that we never know what's around the corner, what might happen in our lives or those that we love, or even in our communities or world. So, having these techniques that allow us to get some neuroregulation, calibration, resource ourselves in spite of what's going on. So, things are going on, and we can also take care of ourselves. So, always happy to be present with you and support you. So, namaste, honoring the divine intelligence in you that's in me and all of us. So until next time, thank you so much. Namaste.